Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at one of the most underrated assault rifles in Call of Duty Warzone, that is the M13. We're going to be taking a look at 3 different class setups, breaking down what each of those attachments does for each class, because there's actually one specific class that literally has no recoil, but there is obviously some negatives and some excellent positives about it. So we're breaking down each attachment for each class. We're using, like I said, 3 different classes, breaking down the actual stats of them and why I recommend them most, because the class I personally prefer is the class of mobility. I usually go for mobility, but I try and find classes that are more catered to slower players that like to, get the best accuracy possible, as always, because I prefer good accuracy as well. So the M13 is probably the biggest weapon on the rise right now due to the fact that it has the fastest fire rate out of all the assault rifles, which is 900 rounds per minute. The other thing that's excellent about it is the mobility is pretty average, does have a good aim down sight time, but the base range, which this weapon only has 1 damage drop, is the most out of all the assault rifles. Your initial first damage range off, this weapon has the longest distance that it will kill in its first damage off, which is what makes it probably one of the best guns in that situation. So the 3 different class setups we're going to be talking about is basically 2 with the long barrel and then 1 with the silent barrel. The difference between using the long barrel and not is it 100% helps your overall recoil like significantly. So talking about the barrels, the CYCLONE barrel, which is the silencer barrel, makes your aim down sight about 10% slower, has no effect on your overall range as far as negating it or making it better, which on some different guns sometimes it does. And the MARKSMAN barrel is going to give you 30% more range, which this already has the most range. So that's definitely 100% going to make it better. As I said, your aim down sight time is already very good. It only makes it about 20% slower. Your movement speed is only about 3% slower. So the movement speed negative is not that bad. A lot of the other really good long barrels are usually 4 or 5%. So it definitely helps out a lot there. So the first class that we're taking a look at is going to be obviously with the long barrel and going for the best recoil pattern possible. The one thing you'll notice on every class setup is that I do have the Commando foregrip. The recoil pattern with that Commando foregrip on this gun is absolutely incredible. It's 100% the best barrel to use on the M13. So the first class setup we're going to be using is obviously that long barrel, the monolith suppressor. We are only using the 50 round mag just because with the 60 your movement speed goes down by 2% slower compared to 50, which is pretty big. And then we're using the rubberized grip with the Commando foregrip. The rubberized grip stacks excellently with this long barrel, makes your vertical recoil very, very low. What that class up is going to give you is 30% slower aim down sight time, 6% slower movement, and 40% more range. So your base range drop is going to be still tied for the longest distance. Your aim down sight movement speed is obviously going to chunk really hard, but this class setup has literally no recoil. Even when shooting it and doing the wall test, it literally had no recoil. This is probably the best class setup for no recoil. Definitely obviously gives it excellent range as well. So the second class setup is going to be swapping out that rubberized grip for the no stock. This is probably the class setup I'm going to be running the most because it's the biggest hybrid. It's going to make your aim down sight movement speed obviously a little slower, but it's going to counter, that long barrel. So it still helps a lot with your mobility, so it's not as bad. So what you're getting is a 10% slower aim down sight time, 2% slower movement, and still getting that 40% more range and still having a very good recoil pattern. This is probably the best hybrid on the best for accuracy and the best for mobility. Your mobility is very, very minimally, dropped off, but you're still getting that massive increase in the range and still getting a very good recoil pattern. So the last class setup is the one I've been using the most, which I just find enjoyable for the M13 because doing the fact that it has the fastest fire rate is definitely a very good close to mid-range. So what I built was a class setup for mobility. Is if you're an aggressive player, you like to rush a lot, this is probably the class setup for you. What we do is we put the tack laser on there instead of the rubberized grip, and we run the silent barrel over the long barrel. So we're running Commando, no stock, the silent barrel, the 50 round mag, and the tack laser. What that gives you is a 15% faster aim down sight time. So you're now at SMG level, 1% faster movement, which is the fastest moving gun now in the assault rifle category. So what you're getting is a better idle sway. You're still getting a pretty good recoil pattern, but your movement speed is going to be completely improved. So you're trying to hit everything with all these class setups, trying to give you a excellent mobility class setup, a excellent accuracy class setup, and then one in the middle. So if you compare all these class setups head to head, you guys will see on the screen right now the best mobility class setup. You're going to have a 210 millisecond aim down sight time, 94% movement speed. The recoil is going to be obviously double the rest. The hybrid class setups 92% movement speed, 275 millisecond aim down sight time with 40% more range. So the biggest difference between these two classes, which I recommend the second class setup the most with no stock, is the 40% more range is one of the most important things in Warzone. It's going to help your time to kill be, stretched out so you can kill players faster at a longer distance. That is the one thing the mobility class setup doesn't have, because obviously there's no attachments. And then with the no recoil class, we have 88% movement, which is on the slower end, definitely slow. Aim down sight at 330 milliseconds, which is very slow once again, but you have no recoil and obviously still 40%. Those are basically the three class setups I recommend most. The M13 is definitely probably the most underrated gun right now in Warzone. Like I said, it has excellent fire, it has excellent mobility, and hopefully this video helps you guys pick a better class. It definitely made me decide to switch to using the long barrel on this gun just due to the fact because it does make an excellent class setup. When you counter it with the no stock, you're still getting every single bonus. And if you guys take a look at the screenshot on the screen, you guys can see the accuracy of all three class setups. You guys can see the no recoil class significantly has the least amount of recoil, and from there you're basically just going to get a significant increase in your recoil. So I definitely think both of the class setups with the long barrel is probably the best way to go. Is definitely probably the best attachment to put on the M13. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. Use code Trapgod on all of your scuff and GFUEL purchases, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.